What's up, everybody? Welcome to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, and maybe not as much so when I get to hang out with you. But the good news is here on this Valentine's Day, we have like 8, 9, 10 different guests for you, which I think sort of screams a problem, if we're being honest. It's, we marvel at everybody's availability. We are grateful for it. The SportsGrid regulars and those from outside the company that have agreed to come on for us for one, maybe even multiple segments over the course of the next couple hours. But it does, of course, beg the question, how did you not have better plans on Valentine's Day? Nevertheless, they're here. They're going to be here anyway over the course of these 2 hours. Very much looking forward to it. And we have got a great crew of people, starting with, of course, producer Patrick Foster, making all of this possible. It's a busy night, especially on the hardwood tonight. And that's going to be a really large focus of tonight's show. Naturally, you'd expect it with virtually every team in the association in action. We have, I believe, 13 games in the NBA that are taking place. And this is a very important time to be on live with you because, as you know, if you like to bet the NBA or maybe you play NBA Daily Fantasy, you know that guys are getting ruled left and right. Once you get to about 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern, all the more so. I was looking, Celtics heavy favorites in their home and home with the Nets back at the Garden in Boston tonight, 13.5-point favorites. But hopefully, if you do have confidence in Boston covering, you didn't take that number, because I suspect it's going to shrink in the moments to come, because Jaylen Brown, who moved to questionable on the injury list earlier today, was just a moment ago officially ruled out. He is not going to play. So if you were on the under 29 or 28.5 points on Jason Tatum, as I am, because I was not assuming the Jaylen Brown absence, then that one could get a little bit sweaty. Now, as we know, Celtics, great team, 30 games over 500, best team in the NBA. The Nets, not as much. And so this one could get out of hand. Of course, you got to consider a multitude of factors with this game. First and foremost, one, Kristaps Porzingis back in the lineup. He sat out last night, looked great, had that Miami Vice suit going on the sidelines there, sitting there as a visitor. Al Horford is not going to play, doesn't play back-to-backs, and so that was expected. And so Celtics, without Horford, without Brown, they're going to be a little shorthanded. Don't be surprised if this line ends up moving a couple of points when you lose 20-plus point per game scorer from the lineup, and the All-Star break right around the corner as well. So the C's just trying to get their guys a little bit of rest. Now, that is the biggest, or one of the biggest favorites on the board. Another, New Orleans at home against Washington. Part of the reason there, Kyle Kuzma has been ruled out for the Wizards. That team stinks. We know it. And so, there's the potential for blowouts all over the NBA tonight. You got the Mavericks 11-point favorites as well against the Spurs. The Suns 13-point favorites against the Pistons. Now, of course, a game last night for Phoenix, so there are a number of teams that are dealing with back-to-backs. In fact, if you bet Phoenix -4.5, even -5, but in particular -4.5 going into that game last night before the line moved, and you were up late last night until about 12:30, 1 o'clock Eastern time, then you were witness to an absolute miracle cover. I have never in my life rooted so hard for Grayson Allen, who I absolutely detest generally. But huge free throws down the stretch, a gigantic offensive rebound off a Devin Booker miss at the free throw line. The Suns looked like they were going to lose that game, and they were heavily favored, or at least reasonably heavily favored, as mentioned, 4.5 going into it. And then it looked like they were going to lose outright before that late rally in the third and fourth quarters, and the miracle cover, as mentioned, in the final 30, 45 seconds or so of that game. So hopefully you cashed that one. I did. I was on the right side of that. Lord knows I'm on the wrong side of plenty of these things. The NBA, it's fickle. It is a fickle beast when it comes to the cover. And so we always tell you, obviously, it is so important. Shop around. Make sure you are shopping around and getting the best odds, because one book may have a half point better, and it makes, as is the case with that Suns game last night, all the difference between avoid and get your money back versus winning your bet, or worse, avoid and losing your bet. And so definitely shop around, whatever it is that you use. And of course, this show paints a lot of those pictures as well. There's no amazing, no doubt about it. You absolutely have to lock them into your money line parlays tonight in the NBA. Now, you could be conservative. You can look at the double-digit favorites, figure they're going to get the job done. I would say in the NBA, the chalk does hit more often than not. Again, nothing is a lock. Nothing is a guarantee. I have been on the wrong side. I'm sure you out there have been on the wrong side. But it is something to consider when you have teams like Boston, like New Orleans, like Dallas, like Phoenix. I mean, I do believe all of these teams are going to win. Will they cover? Obviously it remains to be seen. But some of the games with tighter spreads actually intrigue me more. Now, the Charlotte Hornets are actually 7-point dogs at home against the Hawks. Trae Young expected to have a big night. If you play his overs, looked earlier, it was sitting at, I believe, about 24.5 points, maybe 23.5 earlier in the day, climbed a little bit. That's a spot worth considering. For Atlanta, I took, full shame on me. I took Charlotte to cover earlier in the day when I think it was +4, maybe +5. And obviously with some injury news, we've seen line movement there. But tighter spreads, I like Philadelphia tonight. I know, no Joel Embiid, Miami on a back-to-back, travel involved as well with this game in Philadelphia. The Heat were nothing impressive last night. They are a little bit short as well. And so I do expect Philadelphia to take care of business, cover the 3 tonight. It's among the games that we will talk about with our various guests as the show goes on. Took the Rockets -2.5 in this one as well. And in the case of following the money, certainly the betting public agrees. North of 80% of the handle, about 75% of the bets on the Rockets to cover in this game in Memphis. A dreadful Memphis team that, has played a little bit better of late, but has just woefully underachieved throughout this year, in large part because of, obviously, its litany of injuries. Now, I do like the Nuggets, -5.5 at home against the Kings. We've seen this line climb, pardon me, just a little bit. As you can tell, I apologize in advance if you're out there watching or listening here. I'm a little bit under the weather. We're going to battle through it together. I'm in for Joe Ranieri, who is a bit more under the weather. But with one thing I think I know is that the both of us probably feel worlds better than Travis Kelce right about now, who is absolutely blitzed at the Chiefs championship parade. If you saw any of the coverage from that, I'm not sure I have seen anybody drunker at a championship parade than Kelce was when he was up there on the stage. So again, busy night on the hardwood in the NBA. It's a Wednesday, and so we've got a lot going on in college basketball as well. We're going to spend multiple segments with Colby Dant. Very much looking forward to that. He's from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, hosts the College Experience. He's going to have a lot of leans, a lot of favorite plays for tonight's slate before they get underway. There are games all throughout the night. Already have an inkling just from following along with him of some of the plays that he really likes. Looking forward to that. We'll have NHL talk. It's a light slate, weird schedule still, of course, coming out of that All-Star break, but we have just three games going on the ice tonight, so we'll be able to break those down in depth. And don't forget golf. Genesis Invitational, including with Tiger Woods. He's the host of the event, and he is participating. It's his first start in quite some time. Looking forward to seeing Tiger out there on the links this week. So we'll be back starting off with a whole collection of guests. Go nowhere. This is Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy? Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I don't.
You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat
bag. I have a hat bag. I carry this
that's
around.
That's not a purse or man bag. It's a hat bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
It's Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. Welcome back. Adam Kaufman in for Joe Ranieri, and the first of a litany of guests that we have coming your way between now and 8 o'clock Eastern, but he's one of our favorites across all SportsGrid programming. I'm used to talking to him on the weekends, but you know, he's upscale. He's on here during the week pretty regularly as well. George Kurtz, how are you, George?
Doing well, right? I mean, football's done now. Terrible tragedy today in Kansas City. That's awful for the people affected by that. So, you know, it's baseball starting soon. I know you and I are here in the Northeast. Baseball means warmer weather, but tonight we got hockey.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this is a whole other conversation that we'll save for, you know, maybe as we get closer to summer. Nobody in the Boston area is talking about baseball season. I could promise you that. Spring training and pitchers and catchers reporting and all of that stuff. That's stuff for contending teams, George. That's closer to you. Teams like the Yankees and obviously the powerhouse that is the Dodgers and all of the World Series hopefuls. Around here, it's, you know, where it's a rebuild. Nope. We're focused on the winter sports teams, the Celtics, the Bruins, championship runs, especially on the heels of a very underwhelming football season, as you mentioned. Thankfully, as a Patriots fan, that has come to an end. But for you, let's talk about what's going on the ice. I know it's a limited slate tonight, just 3 games going on. I haven't bet many of these. It's hard to find real conviction in this slate tonight. You know, the only one that I have some money on at the moment, but maybe you can convince me to, you know, put some more coin elsewhere, is the Minnesota Wild on the money line in what is a virtual pick 'em on the road in Arizona. Who do you like in this one?
I like Minnesota, as you say. Now I'm going to go with the Wild here as well. I've also got them in a parlay. The only way you can find a way to get the Jets tonight versus the Sharks is to put them in the parlay here. Even the Jets on the goal lines, it's minus 162, I think it was. That's not good. I don't like that either here. So I have the Wild on the Jets in the parlay, and I have the Wild straight up as well. So give me that here. We'll see how we can work that in. I don't feel great about this stuff. The Coyotes are not a bad team. This is not a gimme game at all. But lately they haven't been playing as well here. I'm toying with the idea of wanting to go the over here as well, but I haven't pulled the trigger on that.
So I know you like to parlay in the world of hockey, obviously, but when you have such few options, again, only 3 games at your disposal tonight, you've only got the one heavy favorite. That's the Winnipeg Jets at home against San Jose. The other game, Florida and Pittsburgh, which is, you know, pretty similar to Minnesota and Arizona as far as the lines and the splits go in that one. What's the approach? I mean, how are you parlaying? What's the betting strategy tonight?
I think, once again, a parlay that I've been liking of late. something I don't remember playing all that much in the past, but I've been playing past 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and it makes sense for the Jets game. You take the Jets, right? We all think they're going to beat the Sharks, so that's the gimme part. And find a goal scorer. Find an anytime goal scorer here for the Jets. And you'll get your odds down much better here. Maybe it's Kyle Connor, maybe it's Shifley, Luke Dubois, whatever it might be here. And so let's get those odds down a little. Luke Dubois on the Kings, but you get your price down better here. So that's what I've been playing lately. I've not played that yet tonight. I think I probably will because it's a small slate. I'll be the first to tell you if it wasn't a small slate, I probably wouldn't do it tonight. I would just stick with the regular parlay of the Jets and Wild here. But I don't mind doing that either. The question is going to be finding the right goal scorer here. The Sharks are not giving up 8 goals like they were earlier in the season, but still they're not a great defensive team. We expect the Jets to score 4, 5 goals here, Adam, tonight. So I'm kind of liking this. Finding my goal scorer. It's got to look up some numbers here to find out who that goal scorer will be. It probably won't be Kyle Connor. He has not been. I think he's only scored 2 goals since coming back from the injury.
So is there puck line temptation at all with the Jets, or is the line just not getting you any value?
I mean, do I think it hits? Yeah, but it's minus 162. I mean, right. I think the Jets win this game 5-2, 6-2. I mean, I think it's an easy win here, but I don't love it here. I do kind of like the over because of what I just say. I think the Jets are going to give you most of your over anyway. It's 5.5. I think the Jets get at least 4, if not 5. So I do like the over there. I think that's another way you can play this.
Is the over the move in the Wild Coyotes game? It's sitting at 6 right now, at least at some places. I don't know if it's climbed to 6.5 elsewhere where, you've got some decisions to make as far as avoiding a potential push.
Here we've got 5.5 here. So if you're going to go the over, it's minus 134. The under's plus 110. I don't know if I love this. I just don't know. The Coyotes can score goals. All right, they got Clayton Keller, Schmaltz. They're having decent seasons here. They can score goals here. The Wild, Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Hartman, Boldy, they can score goals as well. So I don't love the under, no. And the minus 134 on an over 5.5 involving the Wild, it's not a great number to get here either. I lean towards the over, though. I think you'll get your over, but barely. 4-2, you might be sweating out that empty netter at the end of the game here, needing the Wild to hit that.
You mentioned trying to pair up, obviously, outcomes of games with looking for a goal scorer, going through your sheet and seeing who you really like to find the back of the net tonight. What about shots? A parlay that way, or at least options if you're, looking at a specific guy to clear 2.5 or 3.5 shots, whatever it may be, where there's good value there, where, you don't need the point or the goal even more so, just getting attempts, especially in some of these games where you're expecting a lot of scoring.
Absolutely. We love shots on goal, right? That's a great way to play it. I mean, come on, not so much this year, but in the past. I mean, Alex Ovechkin, right? He never met a shot he didn't like to take. It's a matter of him hitting the net. You knew you were going to get that shots on goal prop. He shot everything. All right. So, yeah. And once again, Kaprizov may be that guy tonight. A guy who's a good shooter there. Arizona doesn't have the greatest defense on the planet. They're going to try to keep the shots on the perimeter. That's what you're looking for, though. You want to make sure teams aren't trying to be, sports center top 10, go tic-tac-toe. You want guys who shoot the puck. Get puck, shoot puck. We don't care from where, just shoot the puck and not try and make these pretty little plays here. But I don't mind shots on goal tonight. Be the same guys I mentioned. Kaprizov, not so much Zuccarello. He's really more of an assist man. Kaprizov, Boldy, Zuccarello, Hartman would be the 3 guys I'd look for there.
I've seen Ehlers as a popular play tonight, too, not only to go over on his shots, but to come up with, obviously, a point, maybe even a goal. How do you feel about him?
I like Nikolai Ehlers, but he's if you're going to play the point prop, he's not really an assist guy. Those almost sort of happen by accident. All right, not saying you can't get him. Obviously, you will get them, but it's like he took a shot, it was saved, and I don't know, Shifley put it home. That sort of thing. He gets it by not because he set somebody up, but I don't mind him for an anytime goal scorer. You'll get a very good price on that, but I would probably do him more if I'm just going to do it single. Get the good price, rather than being. I don't want him being part of my parlay because I don't love him to score tonight. He's certainly got a shot at it, but I would probably take one of the bigger names. The idea if I'm going to play the parlay with the goal scorer, I want to have a pretty good idea he's going to score here, which is why I wouldn't mind Shifley. The big guys, the big names here. I would love Khan if he was scoring more. He's just not doing that right now.
What about Jake Gensel? He's, obviously there are a bunch of different people that have their own projection models. One that I'm looking at right now has him to be the guy who records the most shots in the league tonight across these 3 games. Now, it's not a huge total. It's still right around 4.5 or so. But how do you feel about him?
Gensel's actually a big talk, right? Because the Penguins have a decision to make here. They're not quite in the playoff spot right now. They've got games in hand here, so they'll be battling for it. They'll be a bubble team at the end of the year. Gensel's going to be a free agent. And there's a lot of noise that, Pittsburgh, are you winning the cup anyway? Probably not. I don't know how you explain to Crosby, Malkin, Letang that, hey, we're not going for it this year. But do you trade Gensel? He might be the most attractive wing on the market if they were to trade him. So I think it's a big decision to make here. He's a very good player. All right, now he's not Crosby or anybody like that, but he knows how to work with these guys. Good power play guy. The problem is you're playing Florida. Very good defensive team. They've played very well this year. Bobrovsky's in net. He's played much better than I expected this year as well here. I would not be betting on any Pittsburgh player to score a goal, but Crosby has scored at least 1 point against the Florida Panthers in 11 straight games. You might want to go that direction.
You mentioned Florida, and that team, as of right now, has the third best championship odds behind a couple of teams that are tied in most places, Colorado and Edmonton. It was only a matter of time. We've talked about the Oilers before they figured it out. Real strong, since early season struggles. How do you handicap the board before we let you go?
I love Florida. I think whichever team makes the biggest trade deadline acquisition is going to be the favorite out east here, whether it's Boston, Florida. Florida doesn't have any obvious needs, but all of these teams could use another scoring winger. Everybody needs defensive help. That's harder to get.
George, we love spending time with you, buddy. Get George Kurtz on Twitter, @George Kurtz. We'll see you next time.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy?
Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I
don't.
have.
You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat
Look,
bag.
I have a hat bag. I carry this
That's
around.
not a purse or man bag. It's a hat
ridiculous.
bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Well, from George Kurtz to another SportsGrid regular, Brady Cannon joins us here. You can get him on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer. Of course, he can talk everything. I mean, football, golf in particular. We're often hounding him for his picks. I'll be texting him for his picks on a regular basis. He hasn't heard from me yet, though, with the Genesis right around the corner. So we're going to get his picks here during this segment. Looking forward to it. Before we do that, though, Brady, I think we have to talk about the elephant in the room, just at least a little bit. We got to talk about the Super Bowl because we haven't caught up since. I know as a bettor, not a bad day for you. As a fan, certainly could have gone better. You are a Niners fan. I thought San Francisco was the right side. That being said, I thought Baltimore was the right side. I thought Buffalo was the right side. I could have made a case, if not for the weather, that Miami was the right side. And yet the Chiefs just did Chiefs things all the way through the playoffs. They are back-to-back champions. They are a dynasty, and they are trying to three-peat next year with Andy Reid obviously coming back. How'd you feel about that game and just the way that it played out strategically?
Yeah, it's really amazing what they did in the playoffs, Adam. You know, if you don't count week 18, they lost 4 out of their last 7 games, you know, to the Raiders, the Packers. And I mean, the Chiefs all season long weren't the Chiefs that we're used to. And I bet on them against the Dolphins. I believe I had them in a teaser against the Buffalo Bills. I was they very easily could have lost that game. Buffalo probably should have won it. I was incredibly surprised by Baltimore. I thought Baltimore and San Francisco were the best 2 teams in the NFL. And then I had a real tough time deciding how to bet the Super Bowl because, again, you know, it feels like such a lazy storyline. It's hard to bet against Mahomes, and it is a little lazy, but it's true as well. And Andy Reid as well. Andy Reid and Spagnuolo, the 3 of them. That's kind of the 3-headed monster right there. I mean, Travis Kelce didn't even catch a touchdown in this game, and these guys still managed to get past San Francisco. So I used alternate lines. I had San Francisco +8. I had Kansas City +12. I had over 37.5 and, you know, paired all those together and it worked. And I pretty much broke even on my prop bets. But yeah, it was really disappointing as a 49er fan who grew up used to winning these type of things. And now I think it's 3 in a row that we've come up short. And I was really excited in the first half. I'm like, boy, you know, I was really worried about the 49ers defense, which has not really looked good in the last couple games and really has been a different unit after week 11 or so when Talanoa Hufanga went down. But they came out guns a-blazing. They were sacking Mahomes. They were stopping the run. I was like, boy, this is looking good. And then they failed to capitalize on opportunities. Mahomes throws an interception. They were forcing 3 and outs, you know, and they couldn't, you know, get that initial score or 2 that was going to step on the neck of the Kansas City Chiefs. They let them hang around. And when you let the best quarterback in the world hang around, it's trouble. And, you know, a lot of people are yelling and screaming about the overtime decision. That's about a 50-50 call. And Shanahan has also come out and said our defense was pretty gassed, and that played into the decision. Some people have yelled about his play calling. His play calling was pretty darn good. Let's give Kansas City's defense some credit as well. So I you know, you can nitpick, and Shanahan certainly, you know, is responsible for some questionable decisions, but I don't think it was awful. I thought he called a pretty darn good game, and I thought it was a pretty well-coached game. You know, one thing that was really significant that I didn't realize, and then I saw it pop up, Dre Greenlaw, his injury, tearing his Achilles in such a freak accident, just getting ready to go back out onto the field and play defense. His replacement, Oren Burks, had 9 targets against who he was guarding. The receiver who he was guarding caught all 9 passes for like 120, 130 yards or something like that. And that probably includes Travis Kelce. So, you know, we didn't see Kelce being a factor early in this game, but I think that was a huge turning point right there. Aside from all the decisions and all the Monday morning quarterbacks, Dre Greenlaw being injured was big. That opened up the middle of the field quite a bit for Kelce and the Chiefs offense.
Brady, if the NFL is hiring guys defensively who can allow catches on every single play, I'm their guy. I can do that. I can not break up pass plays. I'm like a champ. like a huge winner. I will put on a show out there. Listen, we can go on and on about this game, obviously. I had no problem with the overtime decision. I knew the rules. I was familiar with the rules. I know there's been a lot of discussion about guys on the Niners not knowing the rules. I knew what the rules were, and I still, pardon me, would have taken the ball. I thought it was the right decision because you need to consider the matchup and giving the ball to Patrick Mahomes. They talk about it. Do you want to give Mahomes 4 downs? Well, I don't want to give Mahomes the ball 2 times. If I end up tying it and then he's got a chance to go win the game. I did have an issue with the play calling in the third quarter, but like I said, it's a conversation for another time. We got you here largely talking golf. Genesis Invitational begins tomorrow, and there's a lot of buzz around this one, largely because Tiger Woods is participating. He's making his first start, and there are no expectations, Brady, that he's going to go out there and win or anything like that. I mean, his odds as far as an outright are like 170 to 1 or something along those lines. So it's not going to be good, but just, anytime that Tiger is participating on the links, it's worthy of your attention, and it gets people excited in the golf world. That being said, favorites: Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, pardon me. That's the top of the board. Who do you really like?
Well, the shortest shot I took was Colin Morikawa at 20 to 1. And then I also took Sam Burns at 25. I took Adam Scott at 33. And then I took Sahith Theegala at 38. And then I did take one long bomb, Chris Kirk, at 115. And I've seen him as high as 125 or even 145. So Chris Kirk not getting a whole lot of love here. And I don't think it's necessarily because what he looks like on paper. He's having a great year. He won at Kapalua to kick off the season. Kapalua is very much of a correlated course to Riviera Country Club, where we are this week. And if you look at the stats, Kirk is very high on the list. I think maybe the mentality of a lot of the sharp golf bettors out there is we're finally going to go away from the triple-digit winner this week. I mean, look at the strength of the field. You've got 70 players in the field. It's the best of the bunch. It's much more likely this week, other than any other week, that you're going to get one of these shorter shots winning. It's much more unlikely that you're going to get another, 100 to 1, 200 to 1 guy winning this week because the field is so stacked. So I think that's maybe why some of the long shots aren't getting as much attention, and especially Chris Kirk, because I think Chris Kirk could be a live play here, maybe at least for a top 20. All the guys I did play for an outright, I also played for a top 20 finish. But Adam, it is the Tiger effect. I mean, I spoke with a lot of bookmakers around the country today, and Tiger is getting he is getting the most attention more than anybody in the outright market, in the top 5s, in the top 10s, in the top 20s. About the only market where we're not really seeing him that I talked to these bookmakers about is first round leader or top American. Scotty Scheffler is getting the most attention for top American as far as the first round leader market. I believe Sam Burns is the number one selection. Emiliano Grillo is the second most popular choice there. You've got Bo Hostler as a popular first round leader pick. So Tiger not getting the attention in every market, but certainly in the more high profile markets. Like I said, to win the tournament outright, top 5, top 10, top 20. There's only one head-to-head matchup that I saw with Tiger involved, and that was against Charlie Hoffman. Charlie Hoffman, of course, a loser in a playoff last week in Phoenix, who made quite a run at 47 years old. And they've got the two old guys paired together in a head-to-head matchup. Charlie Hoffman about minus 200 to beat Tiger. And I think Tiger actually might be the right side in that one. I would probably not be betting Tiger to miss the cut in this tournament. The tournament only has 70 players in the field, and the cut line will fall at the top 50 and ties, and then also anybody within 10 strokes of the leader. So if you're missing the cut this week, it may only be like 5 guys that actually don't make it to the weekend. If you're greater than 10 strokes off the lead and you're not in the top 50, you've had a pretty poor week. And that could be Tiger, but I'm not going to bet against anybody to miss the cut this week, because that margin there for the number of players that are going to miss the cut is probably going to be a very, very small number. I can tell you this, though, that if Tiger does go on to have a great week, they're betting this guy to have a bogey-free round, to make an eagle, you name it, they're betting on him. If he does something where he has some heroics and some fireworks and finishes top 5 or even better, the books are going to take a hit. I guess, Adam, we may have lost you there. I'm sorry, but if you can hear me, I'll continue on, because then you don't have to text me late night when I'm already in bed. You're out on the East Coast, and you're texting me at about 3 a.m., 2 a.m. your time. So I'll get it all out here on the show for you. And I'm just kidding you, buddy. You can text me anytime you want. But I did go with a couple of head-to-head matchups as well, a couple guys that I actually played in the outright market. I took Sam Burns at -122 over Tony Finau. And then I also took Colin Morikawa at -105, just a short underdog there to Justin Thomas. So Burns, Morikawa, Adam Scott, Chris Kirk, and Sahith Theegala make up my card for the Genesis Invitation.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy?
Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I
don't.
have.
You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat
Look,
bag.
I have a hat bag. I carry this
that's
around.
not a purse or man bag.
This
It's
is
a hat
ridiculous.
bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Game Time Decisions. Brady Cannon here with you, joined by Mark Zinno and Adam Kaufman. Hopefully we'll be back shortly, having some technical difficulties there. But it's time to talk a little NBA. Mr. Zinno, great to have you back. Good to be with you again. Are we gonna do Sunday evening golf talk again this season?
I hope so. Great to have you off the tee box here, there, Brady Cannon. I'll try to clean up around the green for us here in the NBA, but great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about the NBA. Of course, one of the areas of expertise for you, certainly. I'm intrigued by this Miami Heat team and the game they have tonight on the road. I really liked the spot for them last night, going against the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks were on a back-to-back. I actually bet the Miami Heat, and they crushed them. They were getting about 7.5 or 8.5 points and won by about 30. Now they're on the road tonight. They themselves in a back-to-back. Can they pull it off twice in a row?
I don't love this spot for him. I was with you. I was on Miami last night and cashed an easy winner. It's not often you get those no-sweat winners, but certainly enjoyed it. But, situationally, the back-to-back always makes it tough. But, this is a Philadelphia 76ers that's adjusting to life without Joel Embiid. And that's really been something that, they have to figure out. The Heat are just 2-4 against the number on back-to-backs and 3-4 straight up. So, this is a team right now that offensively, I'm not sure matches up well with what Philadelphia does. Philadelphia actually plays faster and can score more without Embiid on the floor. As long as they have, and I haven't checked the injury report, as long as they have Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey on the floor, they are a team right now that I think actually can do some damage. I think Tobias Harris has officially been ruled out of this game along with Nicholas Batum and Kyle Lowry. So they're going to be a little bit shorthanded, but it is telling that they're making the Philadelphia 76ers a 3.5 point favorite here. And I think there's a certain amount of times where the line gets overinflated because of the back-to-back in one way or another. If they weren't on a back-to-back, are we saying this is sort of Miami Heat, -1 or even a pick'em type game in favor of Philadelphia? I think that tells you the depth between these two teams here. And you're still getting no Jimmy Butler from Miami Heat. Now, I wouldn't want to go back to the well with Miami back-to-back nights without Jimmy Butler, especially given what they were able to accomplish last night on the road. So probably a stay away from me, but I would, believe it or not, lean on the Sixers in this spot here and lay a short number. If the money line you can swallow it isn't too bad at around -155, just take the points out of the equation and take Sixers money line.
I think you make a great point there, Mark, that this line probably is skewed because of the back-to-back and maybe even a little bit for the way that they beat Milwaukee on Tuesday night. But I'm with you. I don't want to lay points, Philadelphia as a favorite without Joel Embiid. I'm going to stay away from this game as well. I wonder if it's a part of your handicap, Mark, as we get down to the last, the final days before the NBA All-Star break. When you think about NFL football, sometimes it's a situational play for a team that's going into a bye week. And these guys kind of already have, a little bit of time off on their mind. Does that enter into your handicap in the NBA? These guys are excited, probably looking forward to taking a week off, the guys that are not involved in all the All-Star festivities. Is that part of the equation for you when you break down these games?
Situationally, you look towards long road trips when they come back home. There's usually a little bit of a letdown spot there. Sometimes, there are teams that have long extended breaks that you can play on 3 days off. It's not always common in the NBA, but it happens. And then you also look for revenge spots, which is a case where we look at the Denver Nuggets tonight against the Sacramento Kings. This is a Sacramento team that just beat Denver about 7 days ago. In Sacramento in pretty embarrassing fashion for the Nuggets at 135-106. Kings are on a back-to-back as they played last night. And this is a Denver team. When they get back home, obviously we know the advantage that they have, 21-4 straight up at home. Even though they're only 13-12 against the number, I like Denver in this spot tonight, especially in the first half. That's the way I played them. I laid 3 in the first half. Denver's one of the highest scoring teams in the league. They score 60 points a game in the first half. They only give up 54 and change in that spot with a revenge angle here after Sacramento not only won the last game a week ago, but they've beaten them twice already. Sacramento has both games in Sacramento. So Denver looking for a little revenge here after Denver got waxed the other night by Milwaukee in pretty embarrassing fashion. They didn't even get to 100 points in that game. So I expect an energized effort from the Denver Nuggets tonight. I'll lay the 3 in the first half with them. Sacramento's still a team that can score, and they probably have a run in them. The way I always look at games like this, when you're looking at a 2-possession spread or more, I kind of stick to the philosophy if they ain't covering early, they probably ain't covering late. And, if Denver gets out to a big lead like I think they will, I think Sacramento's got a run in them that can get this thing close that I don't want to have to sweat out in the second half. So, and then always, of course, you factor in the 9 o'clock start. Some of us got to get to bed early. I don't feel like staying up till 11:30 midnight to watch the rest of this game. So, let's just take the first half here and go to sleep.
He is Mark Zeno. Follow him on Twitter at Mark Zeno, Zinno. Talking a little NBA. And Mark, you bring up the Sacramento Kings visiting the Denver Nuggets. That was a game I looked at as well. And I think another one that's very similar situationally is the Los Angeles Lakers visiting the Utah Jazz. The Lakers on a back-to-back, like Sacramento is, and both of these teams going to play in altitude. Is that part of your handicap for either of these games as well?
I'm sure it does. Look, Utah this year as a team, 18-6 straight up and against the number at home this year. So they've certainly had an advantage there. But this is also a Utah defense that's really bad. I mean, it's not very good at all. They give up 120 points per game. Over the last 5, they've given up 122. And I don't think they're playing all that well right now. They've lost 5 of their last 7 and failed to cover 5 of their last 7. This is a Lakers team that at this point wants to start to stockpile wins to make sure that they are, in decent position when it starts to come to the playoffs here. And I mean, this just feels like more points than I want with Utah, especially with a defense like that. Even late, there's a chance that they can let the Lakers back in it. I would lean on LA in this spot and take the 5.5.
Mark, you mentioned that you played the Denver Nuggets in the first half. What else made your card on this Wednesday evening in the association?
Well, let's look to another team on a back-to-back in the Orlando Magic as they're at home tonight against the New York Knicks, banged-up New York Knicks team. And this number opened up at 2.5. It's gone up to 4. The Knicks themselves are dealing with a bunch of injuries. Obviously, no Julius Randle. He's been out with the shoulder injury. But you lose Isaiah Hartenstein and Dante DiVincenzo. There's some scoring coming off the board here. I still love the Knicks in this spot tonight. I mean, after the game that they had in Houston, a game that is now under protest because of one of the worst foul calls I've ever seen at the end of regulation that gave Houston the win. I expect a very angry New York Knicks team. And not only that, as long as they have Jalen Brunson in the lineup, this is a Knicks team that is going to be able to keep themselves in game. The Knicks have lost 3 straight and 4 of 5 since that 10-game win streak that they had. This is an ideal bounce-back spot for the Knicks tonight. Even though they're shorthanded, we've seen this time and time again in the NBA when teams are banged up and they're missing players, like we did last night with Miami, missing Jimmy Butler. They come out and get a win. I think this is a great spot for the Knicks tonight. I don't think the number matters. I think the Knicks win this game outright here. I mean, I'd take the points just out of principle, but this is a spot for the New York Knicks tonight to get right against an Orlando Magic team that, as of late, when you look at them, sure, they look like they're playing better, but they've also played, the Spurs twice, the Pistons, the Wizards. They're not the Bulls. They're not beating up on good teams. They're beating up on bad teams. When they play good teams like Miami, and I forget who they also missed in the last game. Let me just check it here. But they end up finding themselves in a much bigger, much tougher contest because they're not equipped to handle some of these better teams in the league. It was Miami, and it was they lost to Oklahoma City last night at home in pretty convincing fashion. So I like the Knicks tonight here to bounce back, get themselves right, an angry, energized New York Knicks team here that's at the top of the Eastern Conference right now. Got to survive some of these injuries. I think they can. I think Jalen Brunson can win some MVP votes tonight with an inspired performance and a Knicks win.
Yeah, the Orlando Magic were never really in that game last night on their home floor. And I was thinking about possibly making a halftime bet or something like that. I'm glad I didn't because they really didn't have any sort of comeback in that contest. And OKC just continuing to roll, really one of the surprise teams, I believe, in the entire league for me anyway. Mark, this is a weird situation, and we see it every now and then in the modern day NBA. How do you handle this? The Brooklyn Nets host the Boston Celtics last night, and they lose by about 8 points or so, I think it was. Now they swap cities, and Boston is hosting Brooklyn. Is that just a total stay away, or do you have an edge with a situation like that?
Really weird, especially when you're given the number. It's 8.5 last night at Brooklyn, and now it's 12 in Boston. I mean, home court is worth 2.5, maybe even 3 in certain cases. It's not worth 5. Look, this is a very difficult Brooklyn Nets team to handicap. I tell people never play them as a favorite. As a dog, I'm willing to. This is a big number for Boston. I know how good they've been at home all year long, 25-3 straight up, but just 13-13 against the number here. When you're laying a number this big, there's always a back door that's open for a Brooklyn team that has a lot of fight in them despite not having a ton of talent. I know in road games this year, they're 9-13 against the number. They don't really have a lot of impressive numbers against the spread. But that's also one of those things where Brooklyn is a team I'd play on as a dog in these spots. But, when they get favored 5 or 6 points against other teams, I play against them. So I'd lean on the Brooklyn Nets tonight, taking a big number.
Mark, one more game I want to get to that I think is very intriguing, start to becoming even more intriguing as of late, as the Golden State Warriors have been on quite a run. I think they've won 5 in a row and about 7 or 8 out of their last 10 or so. And it kind of comes around the same time that Draymond Green has been back inserted into this lineup after his time off. And it was a game against the Phoenix Suns in which Draymond was just exceptional the other night. It was 2 nights ago that we saw the red-hot Los Angeles Clippers finally come back down to earth as they were crushed by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now you've got Golden State at home laying 3.5. I worry a little bit about that. I know this team's been good. I would say the Clippers are the better team. Golden State laying points at home.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation here because you're right that Golden State has been playing pretty well as of late. This is a team, as you mentioned, they won 5 in a row, but no Kawhi Leonard tonight for the Clippers, and that makes Golden State a 3-point favorite here. However, the Clippers are 6-0 straight up and against the number after 3 straight home games. So when you see them go back out on the road, they play well in this spot. Warriors just 10-16 against the number at home this year, and the Clips are 2-2 straight up without Kawhi Leonard in the lineup this year. Again, this is also a Golden State team that's sort of taken advantage of playing some lesser teams when you look at it here. When you talk about the 6 of the 7 that they last won, Memphis, Brooklyn, Philadelphia without Joel Embiid, Indiana, the win against Phoenix, there's an argument it should have been a loss. And then, of course, they take care of Utah last night on the road, or 2 nights ago, rather, on the road here. You're not going to get me to lay 3 with Golden State against what I think is the best team in the league in the Clippers here. Probably a stay away from me here, but if you're going to give me the 3 points for the Clippers, as long as, they have their healthy complement of everybody else, because guess what? It's worked. Like, this whole thing has worked for Clippers when it comes to Russell Westbrook and James Harden and everybody else. As long as you got Paul George in there, Clippers will show a lot of fight tonight. You get past that 3, maybe even a 3.5, you can start to really feel confident with the Clippers getting those points, just simply because, again, this is a Clippers team that is and it's deep. I wouldn't step in front of them, not with Golden State.
Mark, just a couple of seconds left here. I know you had a couple of picks for the Genesis Invitational. Who made your card for the golf?
I mean, look, I will finish getting it all together tonight, but, Justin Thomas was on the list there. Max Homa has done incredible at this course. Patrick Cantlay last year finished 3rd. He's finished top 20 in 4 of the last 5 years here at this course. And believe it or not, I know Jordan Spieth hasn't been playing great, but I'm always a Jordan fan. I think it'll be contention.
Yep, I hear you loud and clear. Back with more Game Time decisions in just a moment.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy?
Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I
don't.
have.
You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat bag.
I have a hat bag. I carry this
That's
around.
not a purse or a man bag. It's a hat bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Game Time Decisions here on SportsGrid. You are not imagining things. Adam Kaufman back with you. Thanks to Brady Cannon and Mark Zinno for carrying the load over the last, 10, 15 minutes while we were trying to figure out some technical errors. I don't imagine I'm going to be the only guy on Thanksgiving to say, I'm so sorry, this has never happened to me before. But we have figured it out. We have handled it. And we are back. We are back, I hope. Is there wood to knock on? Let's knock on some wood if you got it. We got another hour in front of us. A lot of great stuff, a lot of college hoops talk on the way with Colby Dant. But before we get there, Davis Maddock in talking about NBA, which of course is what Zinno was here for with Brady. Davis Maddock has a same-game parlay for tonight's NBA action. Let's check it out.
All right, guys, we've got another same-game parlay on the FanDuel Sportsbook. In the NBA, we booked a winner with the Suns four-legger last night. Let's do it again tonight with the San Antonio Spurs, who are traveling to play at the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to begin by taking the Spurs plus 11 points. I really think this is kind of a bad matchup for the Mavericks. They're heading into the All-Star break pretty banged up. Derek Lively listed as questionable for this game. If he doesn't go, they're just giving up so much size to Wemby with Kleba and Powell as their centers. So we're taking the Spurs plus 11. We're going to take the under on 242 because anytime when we're betting against Luka, we want it to bet on a night where he doesn't go nuclear on offense. Then we are going to take Victor Wembanyama to record 20 or more points in this game. And we are also going to take Wemby to record 10 or more rebounds in this game. That is going to give us a four-leg same-game parlay of plus 603 odds, Spurs plus 11, under 242, Wemby to score 20 or more points, and Wemby to record 10 or more rebounds in this game. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right, thanks to Davis. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. Got to play in for tonight's action. Patrick just told me, our producer, that, I said Thanksgiving instead of Valentine's Day. I can't even land a joke tonight. This is unbelievable. Tech errors, disaster, just total disaster this show. Let's make the second hour infinitely better, and if it's not, I'm out of answers. Colby Dant's going to join us. We'll be back. It's hour number 2 of Game Time Decisions here on Sports Grid. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Adam Kaufman back here with you. Colby Dant is here. He is the host of the College Experience from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. This man talks everything across college sports. We have spent so much time on this network doing college football with him, but of course that is long since over. Maybe we'll get into some draft talk, as we get a little closer to the spring. But right now, it's all about college basketball season. March Madness is right around the corner, Colby. You can get Colby on Twitter at @TheColbyD. Colby, it's a little bit light for a Wednesday on the college hardwood. Nevertheless, there are a lot of good spots to tackle. Now, you and I, as it so happened, were just chatting yesterday, and you told me at the time Maryland was one of your favorite plays tonight to cover against Iowa. And what's interesting is over the course of the day today, we had just a little bit of line movement, about a half point. I saw people starting to jump on the Iowa side. Where do you land? Is it still your favorite play? Pardon me.
I mean, it's one of my favorite plays. It depends on the minute you ask me. There's a few that I love, and Maryland is still one of them. I just think I find it hard to believe that, Maryland lost in double overtime, I think it was, to Ohio State the other day. And they lost their last home game against Rutgers. Say what you want, whether it's Gary Williams, whether it's Mark Turgeon, whether it's Kevin Willard, they normally do pretty well in College Park there. So I think it's unlikely they drop 2 in a row. Now I know you could still, lose the bet with Iowa, in a close game, but Iowa's been bad on the road all year. You look at the numbers; they're 2-6 on the road, and to me, it's gone up a half a point. For whatever reason, Jahmir Young, I think, is so much of a better player in College Park. Maryland's 10-3 at home this year, and I was, kind of been a train wreck this year. So I'm still going to load up on Maryland, even at 5.5. I think it's a smart bet. So lay that number.
Are we laying the number with Seton Hall at home? It is -3 now. One point in time, it was all the way down at -1.5. As a matter of fact, it's really climbed. We're looking at a 3 at this moment, and it's a tough matchup, obviously, against Xavier. But as I look at it, you've heard me say this before. I look at Seton Hall as the more desperate team trying to get into the tournament. Very impressive conference wins to this point in the year. Xavier, not a very good road team. Where do you lean here? Is 3? I know it's not a crazy number, but is 3 too much?
No, I'd still lay it. Like I said, Seton Hall, I know we touched on this last night. Like, they weren't always healthy. They're coming off a loss, and they are in a desperate spot. Their remaining road schedule is super challenging. So if you're sitting there doing the math, forecasting, what your record could be in the Big East, this is kind of a must-win game. So they've been great at home this year. They're 10-3 at home, and they're healthier. Kadari Richmond's back healthy. Meanwhile, Xavier's 2-5 on the road. Now, Xavier's still been they've been playing a lot better than I thought they would be this year, especially considering the fact 2 of their better players were out for the year before the season ever started. But I still think that Seton Hall is the play. They're in the more desperate spot. They're at home. That crowd will be, ready to go.
So if I was bringing my college football bias into this, Colby, I would look at Clemson and Miami, and honestly, I would just root for a tie. I would hate both of these teams from a betting perspective because of the way that they both torched me throughout the regular season. It was very, more down than up, obviously, but the adventure is much different on the hardwood. We have seen the Clemson line as favorites move 7, 7.5. There are still some 7s out there. Would you lay the number?
No. I would take the points. I know that I think I saw a report saying Nigel Pack's going to play today. I was waiting for that news yesterday, when considering this number. Miami was so bad against Virginia a week ago, only scoring 38 points. I think they know this is their first road game since then. I think they know the spot. Jimmy Larinaga, this is a team that went to the Final Four a year ago. A lot of those players on this team were on that Final Four run. So add that in with the fact that Clemson has been red hot, beating Carolina at Carolina for only the second time ever, and then taking down Syracuse. I just think Clemson's due for regression. Historically, Brad Brownell teams, seem to sputter their way into March. This is a perfect opportunity for Miami to steal this game. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, because Clemson is a veteran team, but I still think Miami can cover this number, and they are in the actual more desperate spot, surprisingly.
Auburn, South Carolina, a couple of top 15 teams in the country. And as far as the splits go, with Auburn at home favored by 11, it's pretty much, it's close to 50-50. In fact, it's, I'm looking at basically 50-50 in terms of the handle. The actual money is a little bit more 60-40 or so in favor of the Gamecocks, but the total is really what's interesting here. 136, the bulk of the money and handle on the over in this one. It's not a robust total in terms of number of points. Would you lean that way, or do you prefer a side?
I think I would prefer a side. Now I'll still key in on that in a second, but look, South Carolina has been one of the best stories in college basketball this year. I mean, I had them as a surprise team, but I didn't think they'd be this good. I didn't think they'd be this good. They're like Lamont Paris, in my opinion, coach of the year, no brainer to me, even if they lose out the rest of the year. But at the same time, at the last time they went to Alabama in a hostile environment, they took on the Crimson Tide. That was back on January 9th. They lost 74-47. I think it's going to be a score more similar to that. Now, it might not be that much, but I'm saying the Jungle is the hardest place to go into and win in the SEC, in my opinion. That includes Rupp Arena. That includes Fayetteville. They're 12-0 at home for a reason. Bruce Perrault, to his credit, has built this awesome home environment. So I love laying the number here. I think they're going to win by like 17, 18 points. So that would be the side that I go on. And I would also lean under, just because you look at that Alabama game. When they really got in a toxic environment, they got rattled. They weren't built for that. You know what I mean? This is a team that kind of has been built in the transfer portal with the Gamecocks. So I think they could have another tough shooting night in the Jungle there. So give me the Auburn Tigers minus the points, and I'll take the under.
So you mentioned that you like a potential blowout there. What about Connecticut, the number one team in the country at DePaul? The line has actually grown. We're looking at 24.5 now for the visitors, who are just obviously expected to dominate. Do you have any reservations about the line? I know it's huge, it's gigantic, but if any team has the potential to cover it, it would be the Huskies.
Yeah, and a lot of teams have been covering that, like 24.5 against the Blue Demons there. I just think it's a look-ahead spot. They got Marquette on deck on Saturday. That's a huge game for Big East implications. I think Hurley's going to rest some of those starters and key players on the team once they get a big lead. I actually lean to taking the points, but I'll be honest, I would bet a lot of other games before this one. But, if you're making me pick it, I think give me the points. I think it's a 22, 21-point game as the Blue Demons backdoor this thing.
Any thoughts on Tennessee and Arkansas? I'm looking at an 8.5-point spread for the road Vols. You know what? Actually, we'll save this one for the other side, because I want to expand upon some of these other games that are going on, as well as, what you might consider as far as Tennessee and parlay opportunities. So Colby Dan is here from the College Experience Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Hang here. How's that for a big tease? We'll get to it when we come back with Colby.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy?
Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I don't.
You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat
Look,
bag.
I have a hat bag. I carry this
that's
around.
not a purse or man bag.
This
It's
is
a hat
ridiculous.
bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
We're back here on Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid, and Colby Dant, host of the College Experience Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is here with us. We're taking a look at a still, pretty robust college basketball slate tonight. Again, not of the typical Wednesday, but there's plenty of action. There are some top 25 teams, and obviously just plenty of others that you can hitch your wagon to if you're looking to be a volume bettor, is something I've talked about on these airwaves a number of times. So, Colby, before we took the break, we were talking about Tennessee and Arkansas, and the Vols are, laying 8.5 on the road, top 10 team in the country against the Razorbacks. Anytime I think of Arkansas, I think of Corliss Williamson, who was one of the first jerseys that I ever bought as a kid. It's so random in the Boston area too. How do you like this game? How's it play out?
Yeah, I was with you, man. I think I had Scotty Thurman, that team, Corliss Williamson, Scotty Thurman, Corey Beck. Look, I mean, the Arkansas is still, despite their woes this year, they've gotten up in big spots when big ranked teams. Duke came into Bud Walton Arena and lost. Texas A&M, when they were ranked somewhat high, came into Bud Walton Arena and lost. And the same thing happened with the Kentucky Wildcats. So I love loading up here on Arkansas. Musselman's got a track record, especially in Fayetteville, of just going out and getting 10 new guys in the portal every year, struggling in November, struggling in December, kind of get it going in January, which hadn't really happened this year. But I believe the team is more cohesive as the weeks go on. So I like taking the points here. I don't even think it's that crazy to do a money line sprinkle. You look at Tennessee's problems on the road; they're 4-3. They got drilled on the road a couple times. So load me up with the points. I know there's a couple Game Time Decisions that are like Brazil. That is one that we're gonna want to know that he's playing because he's a key player on that team. But I lean Razorbacks there in the points. Even if they don't have him, I think they can cover it. Now, if he plays, I think that money line's probably live.
So obviously that game would not feature into this question just based on the way you answered it. But, we had George Kurtz on with us earlier. He's a big, put together NHL parlays kind of guy. And there are a lot of people in the betting streets that truly, like, people will tell you that obviously, parlaying is a fool's errand. It's a stupid bet. It's a good way to lose money because you're bringing down the EV and all of that. But if you have the right looks, and you don't need to go crazy, like not every parlay needs to be plus 400, 500, 600. It could just be, a couple of favorites together at roughly even money. If you like the spot, that could be a good way to build up your bankroll. You see people do it every single day, obviously. Are there spots, even of slight favorites, and I'm not talking about like a UConn with minus 7,000. Some of the teams that are out there tonight, whether it's Richmond or UNC Greensboro, Chattanooga. I know these are not top 25 teams, but some of the teams like that, Clemson, obviously, who we talked about. Kennesaw State would be another one. Lafayette. Would you like to put any of these together in an effort to build something?
I would love to. And look, last night I hit on a parlay of Kentucky and San Diego State. So yeah, I mean, look, I don't go crazy normally with 7-game parlays or something. Maybe occasionally, but if you can do a 2 or 3 team thing that you really feel good about, which I would, and I do have some of the slate that I like right now. Problem is Greensboro just tipped. I did love the Greensboro play, but that just tipped and they're already up 10-1. So kicking myself, you didn't ask me that last segment. But let's jump over to Loyola Chicago. Look, Valentine's got this team playing a lot better of lately. They're third in the A-10. They already beat St. Joe's in Philly. Now, St. Joe's Billy Lang's team has been very hard to read. They have a very good offense, but at times they've been lackluster. I think Loyola is a train right now, so I like laying the 3.5 with the Ramblers there at home in Chicago there. And to me, I would jump in Murray State minus 3.5. Murray State at home is always a good team, and Missouri State, who they're taking on, kind of been a disappointment this year. And Missouri State's 4-7 on the road. Murray State been a solid home team throughout, I'd say the past decade. I like laying the 3.5 there with Murray State. Throw those two together, maybe add in an Arkansas or Auburn play, and I think you got something good there. I wouldn't go past 3 though. Don't go past 3. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple.
You got a stew going, as Carl Weathers would have told us. R.I.P. Obviously, what you alluded to it when I brought up Maryland before, that it's a play that you like, not necessarily your favorite play. What are some of the other favorite plays among games that have not yet tipped off?
I am taking a shot on, to me, I think Bradley's going to destroy UIC. Bradley never loses at home. They just lost at home to Drake the other night in a game where, they really got smacked. So they've lost 2 in a row in general, but normally they just never lose at home. UIC, I know it's an in-state battle, and maybe you can make the argument somewhat of a rivalry game, but I think Bradley, after losing at home, is going to put it on UIC, who's had their struggles really ever since November ended. So I like laying the big number at the Carver Arena there. They beat them by 18 a season ago. And all the stats would back me up on this too. Bradley is the better offensive team by a large margin. I believe UIC is 293rd in the nation. Bradley is top 100. I think they're 80th if memory serves me correct. But not only that, everything. The steals, they're a much better defensive team. They turn the ball over less. So every stat really backs up the fact that Bradley much, much better team. That's why they're such a big favorite. But I like laying it here just because they're in a desperate spot. That was a huge loss to Drake at home. And to me, they got to stay in that mix in the Missouri Valley. And they can't play with their food here because UIC is an in-state battle. So I like laying that big number with the Braves.
Colby, I should ask you this one earlier because people have already missed the boat, but I'm curious what your view was going into this Detroit Mercy game tonight, because this team, excuse me, I mean, choked up thinking about it, may as well be the, Washington Generals. This team doesn't win games. It's been bad. It has been really bad throughout this year. I mean, literally winless, and yet 5.5-point favorites going into that game tonight and out to a 17-6 start against IUPUI. Did you believe that this was Detroit's night?
Yeah, I mean, we on my podcast, that we do every night, we loaded up on this. We've been waiting for this game. We've actually circled this one because IUPUI has been so bad. Circled this one 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And then you add in the fact that Earl Curitan, their play-by-play announcer, passed away. So it's not only that, it's I feel like, a lot more people are coming out for that. But yeah, I mean, look, Detroit's not as bad as their record. I swear. Even in KenPom, they're a higher ranked team than IUPUI. But this is a team that lost by 1 at Ole Miss earlier in the year. For some reason or another, they just haven't been able to get the wins. I was all over them. I think they're a better basketball team than IUPUI, despite their record. It's Valentine's Day. They got to buy one, get one. What's better than taking your date out to see some winless basketball?
Colby, we haven't talked about this before, so I'm wondering, is it the time? When is the time? Maybe it was already the time to start sprinkling on championship favorites, winners. Obviously, the outright market is there. Your favorites right now, no surprise, Connecticut, Purdue, Houston. Then you start to, drop off a little bit to the likes of Arizona, Tennessee, North Carolina, Marquette, and so on. Do you start to get into some of the long shots, teams that, might be 100 to 1, 150 to 1, just figuring, all right, this is a team that could make a run, even though we're sitting several weeks out?
Yeah, I take some shots on those. I like to find the Final Four prop personally. I think that's one that's always appealing to me. I'll have one that caught our eye last night, or not really over the past 2 weeks. Is Iowa State is playing at so much of a better level than I thought they would be this year. Normally, Iowa State struggles so much on the road. They've won at Texas recently. They won at TCU, and then winning at Cincinnati last night. I was sit there, I was just in awe of how good this team is playing. Now, maybe they're peaking too early, but yeah, I looked at them. I also like North Carolina, despite their recent problems there. So I would take a waiver on both of those.
Colby Dant, again, host the College Experience for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Had him on the last couple of segments. Really enjoyed it. Colby, cash some tickets tonight, my man. Let's have a profitable night.
Oh, thank you, man. And look, I had Thanksgiving dinner last night. All right. My mom cooked old Thanksgiving dinner. Don't let them give you a hard time, brother. Thank you.
It's never too late for a good meal.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy?
Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I don't.
You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat bag.
I have a hat bag. I carry this
that's
around.
not a purse or man bag.
This
It's
is
a hat
ridiculous.
bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Tell you what, rumor has it it's Wednesday. No, not Thanksgiving. It is Valentine's Day, but I'm not sure it's not Saturday. And that's not just all the medication talking for strep throat. It's the fact that I get to be reunited here with my weekend co-host, Cam Stewart. Cam, how are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know. This is really weird. Like because we have numbers to sign in. I'm like, I think this is the only VMix number code that I haven't used. We got like 30 of them. So I literally haven't done GTD since me and Gabe used to be the guys doing that show at 6 o'clock at Foster would know, but now we're on the night shift. So this is very different for me. Nice. Right before some of the games start. Light night on the ice, but we got a lot of hoops tonight.
I love it. We get to hang out, obviously. So let's talk through some of this stuff for the next little bit. If there's one thing that people know from, listening to the two of us on weekends, it's that, both of us, but you in particular, real volume guy when it comes to the slips. I mean, things can get out of hand with golf tournaments. Obviously, the Genesis coming up here tomorrow morning. And beyond that, like you said, it's not, NFL or college football load, but there's a few games on the ice. There's the NBA. There's obviously plenty on the college hardwood. So, what are some of the slips or some of the bets you're going to be tracking here this evening?
Adam, you haven't even got to my golf stuff yet. Like I literally put like my matchups in, my first round leaders, outrights, top 5, 10s, 20s, 30s, and 40s. And then I found some new bonus bets that I'd like to share with you a little bit later on. There's a couple of real crazy ones that definitely worth a sprinkle, and I found them on my FanDuel site here. But tonight in hockey, it's kind of a light night. I'll start on the ice. Don't really love the card. We had a really, really good night last night. I think we were the only people betting on the Buffalo Sabres when they beat the Kings 7-0. It was like one of the most shocking games ever. Their third biggest win in franchise history, so that was pretty cool. But tonight we got games coming up literally in about 13 minutes. They'll drop the puck. Florida and Pittsburgh. I lean Florida in this spot. I think they're just a better team. And Pittsburgh, I know they're going to be very desperate. Not a huge play, but Florida simply is just a complete hockey team. The only reason Florida would lose this game, maybe they run into a really desperate Pittsburgh team who needs to basically run the table to try to make the playoffs. I'm looking at this total. I thought it would be 6. It's 5.5. It's kind of like a bait line, but I will take the over very small because I almost feel like it's a trap. I don't understand why they put it at 5.5. It should be 6 or 6.5. So I'm looking at that. I do like the Winnipeg Jets, but I'm not laying 465. That could be a super parlay piece, which we're trying to build right now. I will take the -1.5, -160. That's still crazy on the puck line, but this is a game the Jets need to take care of business on home ice, and they're a very, very good team, and their crowd's good. As for that total 5.5, I lean over in that one too, but I do like the Minnesota Wild tonight. That's one team I think is peaking in the right direction. I watched their last game when they were in Vegas, and they played a really, really good game. You could say that Vegas was maybe hungover and partying with the Chiefs or going out every night because the Super Bowl festivities were in their backyard. But they just look like Minnesota looks like a team that, they can play better than they do. And they look like they're really starting to turn it around. And it's basically a pick 'em, Adam. So I know the Coyotes could be tough at the old Mellett Center there, but I'm going to take Minnesota and basically a pick 'em price at -113. I lean over in that game too. Oh my God. Every total, I've not seen a night in the NHL. I know there's 3 games where every total, there's not 1 6 or 6.5. They're all 5.5s.
So I'm on the Wild as well. We were talking about that earlier with Kurtz, and he leans Minnesota also. But in those games that are, again, virtual pick'ems, it's pretty much the same number going both sides, whichever team that you invest in. What is ultimately the thing that allows you to pick a side? What creates the lean? Is it recency bias? Is it, previous matchups, the way the goalie is going? What allows you to lean one way versus the other?
Sometimes just the eye test too. And, I think Minnesota is really, really important for this franchise. This could be the first year in almost a decade where they don't make the playoffs, and that's not good enough. I know this team is kind of middling, and the land of 10,000 lakes, let's call it out for what it is. It's basically Canada. The way they look at hockey, it's the same thing. Like these guys live, breathe, they're hockey people. And I think a Minnesota team not making the playoffs would be very bad for business. Like Adam, they're junior hockey or NCAA hockey too. Minnesota, Duluth, the Golden Gophers. Like these are very, very highly touted programs, right? So it's weird to see Minnesota kind of middling. This is a game where they got to take care of business. And I really, really like what I saw from Matt Boldy and a couple other younger players on this team. I watched them against Vegas, and they just look like they have an extra gear now. I think it's desperation time. We're after the All-Star break, and I'll buy in. Yeah, so recency bias and also situations. I just think Arizona is one of those teams. They're very good at home and they could surprise you. That's when they win. But Minnesota, they can't come out flat. Like this is a typical game where Arizona would play the Leafs and Leafs would be down 3-0 because they went out to the bars the other night or go, oh, we're only playing the Coyotes. Then they have to go battle back. Minnesota has no time to do that. They're in a desperate mode right now. So that's what I'm looking at with the Wild tonight. And I think the price is right. I'm going to bet every over in hockey. Hopefully I go 2-1 and we'll make money there.
Cam, we'll get to some college hoops if we can, but I know
you
are a big.
You need a Ricola. Ricola.
Yeah.
Halls.
You're a big golf guy, obviously.
Yes.
What's the move with the Genesis? How thin are you spreading yourself in this tournament in terms of outrights versus finishing positions 10, 20, 40, that type of thing?
Really good question, Adam. And I could say this. I'm not taking these guys at 500-1 that won these tournaments. It's been a real trend on the PGA Tour, but this tournament is a 70-player field, right? Tiger Woods is hosting. Guys are going to bring their best. A lot of guys that, weren't playing their best took the week off. I read some tweets and, watch Golf Channel, dig a little bit deeper, working on their games, and they're very, very serious for this week. So these are guys that I think the cream will rise to the top this week. I'm looking for guys, basically this course, Riviera, 7,300 yards, par 71, nice and short. It brings a lot of straight ball hitters in. The difference this week will be putting. Can't spray it all over the place here. A little bit of rough. It's not too difficult, but some guys really, really like this course. And I've noticed California players, a.k.a. Max Homa, who's won this tournament multiple times. Scotty Scheffler's is the best. He can play anywhere, but a lot of these California kids really like this tournament. They really enjoy the California swing. They know the type of greens, the type of fairways. It's basically like a home game for these guys. And I think, this week I didn't go for those 250, 300 ones that I've almost hit with, but a little bit of chalk at the top. This is what we're going to start with, though. Ludwig Aberg is, in my opinion, the best young golfer almost in the history to come out of college and to do what he did. There's not been a player who goes to a Ryder Cup team before, winning a tournament major. You know what I mean? This guy came out in the scene second, won. He won in Europe. He's just one of these guys. He's a phenom. And it's really hard to be a phenom in golf because there's 30, 40 guys that are world class every week. I'm taking him at 20-1. I think that's a good price. I would have bet him probably at about 15. Then I got to think about Colin Morikawa. This guy's disappointed me. He is a Cal Golden Bear. What happened? I read some stuff with Colin, the putting. He can't believe how bad he's been putting this year. He's working on some new things, and his ball striking has always been impeccable. Won a British Open. He's won multiple tournaments on the PGA Tour. 22-1 looks good to me. Also, what else am I going to do here? My favorite kind of mid guy is Will Zalatoris at 50-1. Will Zalatoris, remember, he's coming off a surgery. It took him a couple weeks to get acclimated, but slowly but surely, Adam, this guy's coming right back. And when he wins a tournament and I'm not on it at 50-1, I'm going to put my head through a wall. As I told you, I've won guys at 250-1, and 1 week I don't play them, then they win. That's the problem with golf betting. It's not good for a guy like you, Adam. I'm already addicted. Because when you take a guy and he comes second, you're going to take him again because he's knocking on the doorstep, but he might not win for 30 tournaments. I'm and he finally does, hey, I got my money back. But it's a very dangerous game you play sometimes. I like Eric Cole a lot this week. I bet him every week. This guy is a top 20 machine. I would suggest, guys, only one guy's winning the golf tournament. So spread out your bets, top 10s, 20s, 30s, however you want to do it. That's what I do with Cole, and usually he finishes inside the top 10 or 20 every week. And as Scotty Perrault calls me the prime minister, I don't know what Gabe is then, the king, of Canada, whatever it is. I'm taking Adam Svensson. Nick the Dennis Taylor won for the Canadians last week. I told Carver he's got dual citizenship now. Every time he bets a Canadian, he wins the tournament. I go, you're the boss. And as prime minister, I give you dual citizenship and the Order of Canada, 90-1. Top 10s. Rory McIlroy. This guy's just too good. He could bring his D game and win this tournament sometime. So I'm going to take him at +10 for a top 10. Max Homa, defending champion of this tournament. Cal Golden Bear again. We see the theme, +175. I got another California golfer, Patrick Cantlay from the University of UCLA, +175. Would not be shocked if he's on Sunday, maybe in the lead or battling for a title right there. Those are guys that I like. And Aberg, I told you I got him to win. I'm going to take him in top 10, 20. Also, guys, Will Zalatoris for a top 20. Good work there, Frank Font. I appreciate this. +160. And Mr. Burns, throw it on the money pile. Sam Burns is quietly becoming very, very sneaky, and he is going to win one of these weeks. I have Adam Svensson at 150 to 1. So for a top 30 at plus 130 looks good to me. And Matt Kuchar, old man Cooch. You know what? 7,300 yards. That's not going to scare him. If he played a 7,800-yard course with wind, I wouldn't be taking him. But old guys can do really, really well at this course, and Kuchar fits the bill. He loves money. Give me him a top 30 at a plus price as well, Adam.
So, Cam, I know you're not one for bankroll management. We've got less than a minute to go. I am wondering, though, how you, when there are enough guys that you like, how you attack it. Because I imagine these outrights are not, full unit bets. So are you sprinkling the outrights full unit on top 20s, that type of thing? How do you break it up?
I usually do this. Let's use a unit of $100.
Okay. 20
to 30 to win. And then the rest, top 20s. If the guy's chalk, top 10s. You know what I mean? So you put 20, 40, 40 or 30. You know what I mean? You do that basically 0.2 units, 0.3 units, and the rest I spread it out in the top 10 and 20 market.
Cam Stewart, miss you, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Hope you feel better.
Thanks.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy?
Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I don't.
You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat bag.
I have a hat bag. I carry this
That's
around.
not a purse or a man bag.
This
It's
is
a hat
ridiculous.
bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Thanks again to Cam Stewart. A lot of fun always with Cam, my weekend partner, and a guy that also is on the weekends as well as during the week, and he's on after this show, but I'm getting the chance to talk to him for the first time. Excited about it. Scott Wetzel. He will be hosting In-Game Live Prime Time right after this show coming up in about 20 minutes. Scott, how are you, man?
Good, Adam. How you doing tonight?
Good. It's interesting night. Obviously, we were talking off air. It's light in the NHL. We got golf starting tomorrow, but a lot of activity on the hardwood, be it pro and college. So with those games in the NBA, many of them anyway, just underway at this point in time. Between the ones that started just after 7 and those just after 7:30 as well. What was your view coming into the contest tonight? What were your best bets?
Well, let's start with college basketball, just because, Adam, the moniker opposite picks for me. I think we have our opposite picks pick of the decade. Maybe even forget about the year. Maybe even go millennium, because I don't think I've ever seen an 0-26 team not only be favored, as Detroit Mercy is tonight, but favored by 5.5. Now, IUPUI, I can't even spell that to figure out, where that school is. Actually, it's in Indiana. In fact, my dopey wife actually went to that school. Don't ask. But anyway, they're actually favored. Yes, she did. Indiana University, at Purdue University, at Indiana. And pick a school, will you please? Just pick a name.
You're just stringing random words together in Indiana at this point in time.
The XYPZQRD. So how
Their
in the world,
the
Adam?
Hoosiers,
Who in their right mind? Who in their right mind is laying 5.5 points with a team that's 0-26, right? I mean, they could literally be playing Topeka High. I mean, not Pick'em or 1.5, or you would think maybe a dog, but laying 5.5. And lo and behold, last time I checked a couple moments ago, they're leading by 16. So, I mean,
correct. Can I tell you something, Scott? I did place the bet. I bet him 5.5.
Did you? Good for you.
I did.
Because
I mean, not
you watched
wasn't
them
a
and
full,
you thought they were due?
No, God, no. I wish I could take credit for that. It was not a full unit play. It was more of a sprinkle. It was just kind of, I heard a lot of the buzz throughout the day, from people in the space that I trust more than myself when it comes to college basketball. And people were basically saying, tonight's the night. Sort of made me think back, and coincidentally enough, same city, earlier in the NBA season. Goes back, I don't know, a month, 2 months, when the Detroit Pistons were so bad, and people were saying, but I think tonight's the night. And you just had this community of people betting the Pistons on the same night. To me, that felt like Detroit Mercy tonight, minus 5.5. And so, yeah, I jumped in, no real expectations. Again, I'm not going to get rich off the bet or anything like that, but it's nice to have the slip just to say, hey, I was on the right side of history.
Absolutely. Think about that, though, really, right? I brought this up before as well. If you're a Detroit basketball fan, right? Detroit, the history, the Pistons, really good. Michigan State, kind of near Detroit. And Detroit Mercy's had some halfway decent teams. I mean, you have to live through the Detroit Pistons, the worst team in the NBA, and Detroit Mercy next to Mississippi Valley State, which, oh, by the way, is also winless. Probably the worst team, if not the worst, and second next to Mississippi Valley State as the worst team in college basketball. I mean, that's for a history-rich, city for basketball, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow. Thank goodness for the Detroit Lions. Who would ever think we'd say that?
Yeah, you're not kidding. Decades ago, maybe. So that in mind, and obviously the fact that Detroit is underway. What about these games that'll tip off, after 8 o'clock Eastern? What jumps out at you?
Believe it or not, I got two, and we're going to have some fun tonight, Adam. I'll give you the serious one. We're going to go over 147.5, Iowa, Maryland. It's kind of moment of truth for the Terps. They lost their last home game at home to Rutgers. That was a real good road win for Rutgers, and Maryland plays well. They're not good this year. They're not. But I think they're going to run and gun. Iowa can score with the bunches, with the best of them. They give up a ton of points, kind of moment of truth for them as well. Neither team having the year that I think they expected, but at 147.5 for an Iowa game is not a big number. So I think we're going to get to at least 150 tonight. I like the over in that one a lot. And then the next one, and this is where we'll have some fun. I know it's a goofy game, and who in their right mind is going to put American money on DePaul, but we're going to do it tonight. We're going to take DePaul. We'll buy the hook. Take them 24.5. If you can buy the hook, get them up to 25. And then we're going to go over DePaul, 141.5 against UConn. And my thinking is this. it's basically two free bets. We do this in college football a lot. If DePaul can score 58 points, and I think they can at home, then you're guaranteed at least a split. Because in order for UConn to cover the 25-point spread, the game would have to go over 141.5. So 58 is the magic number. And the goal is basically, maybe lose the game 80-65, 82-65. So the game goes over and you get to cover the number. So it's to me, it's like two free bets. Could they lose 80-40? Yeah, but, it's a home game for DePaul. They've got the coach fired. They've shown a little bit of life since then. Like I said, you circle that 58, and even if they got 56 out of it, it would be like the perfect storm. They're going to score 52, 53, right? So it would really take the perfect storm for them to really lose both these bets. So risk what you want, but I consider it two free bets, and hopefully you go 2-0 versus the 0-2.
Now, how about the NBA? We got some games, obviously plenty underway, as mentioned before, and some with bigger spreads. One with a tight spread, though, that gets underway in about 25 minutes here. It's the Rockets at the Grizzlies. Now, I was talking about this way back earlier in the show. I do not think much of Memphis. I don't know how you could, obviously, with all of the injuries and inconsistent play. And, this a team that was very popular going into the year. People playing the over on their wins, it was sitting in the mid to high 40s. This team has been a disaster. I like the Rockets, -2.5. I'm a little surprised, that there are still some 2.5s out there for Houston. What about you?
Yeah, especially after what happened to them last game, right? I mean, if you want to buy into the, the logical thinking, you bet against the Knicks because they know they got the break, or you bet on the Knicks rather, because they got screwed, and then you bet with Houston as well just because they were fortunate enough to win. I don't think Memphis is going to win this basketball game. Houston's, much better team. I am a little surprised it's 2.5 as well. Last game before the All-Star break for these clubs, you're always a little tricky about that. But I kind of like going with the road teams, as Houston is in this case, Adam, as the Knicks are in that case. Because if you're the home team, you're home. You're thinking about going out with your buddies, going out with the friends, going out with the girlfriends, the wives, go back to your family. You're right there. You're not concentrating. With road team in these spots, it's a business trip. Hey, listen, guy, let's get through this thing, and then we get home, and then we start our All-Star break, and we'll have a whole lot of fun. I think these road teams in these holiday spots, in these day before the All-Star break spots, I think they're a little bit more concentrating on the game than the home team, especially when it's an even matchup. And I really think Houston's a much better club. So I'm with you there with the Rockets. I was a little surprised when I saw that line that it was so low. I figured they would be like 5.5, 6.5. This Memphis team is not good. I mean, it's just not good at all. So I like the under in the game. Same way. The under 218.5, you see there. Houston's a strong under team. Memphis can't score a lick. I don't know how it's going to get to 220 unless it's a complete Houston blowout, and I don't think that'll be the case. So maybe a little two-team parlay there, Houston and the under as well.
Scott, we get some big spreads tonight among games still to go. The Pelicans favored by 14.5 against the Wizards. Mavericks 11.5 against the Spurs. Suns 13 on the second leg of a back-to-back against the Pistons. Which of these teams is least likely to cover?
I would say the Pistons. I know Bradley Beal. I could see another injury for Beal. This guy just can't stay healthy. He just can't stay healthy. Welcome to what Washington fans have been dealing with for the last couple of years. So I know that the Pistons are god awful, right? We just talked about Detroit, but maybe it's a Detroit night, Adam. Maybe it's just the Detroit Mercy wins a basketball game tonight, and then we also have the Detroit Pistons. I don't know if they'll win. But like I said, let's go with the road team. They're the road team here. Let's say they keep this semi-competitive. Well, I would take the Pistons out of that group.
Yeah, all gigantic favorites at home. At home against the Kings. I like. I do like this bet. I've already bet it. In fact, I got the closing line value did not help me out. I actually got the Nuggets at -5.5, and I've been hooked enough times to know that could come back and bite me in the butt a little bit later on. How do you feel about Denver at home?
Yeah, this is one of the rare home teams I will go with. Coming off the good win against the Milwaukee Bucks, I think Denver there's certain games, Adam, that I think the Nuggets are going to get up for, and they play pretty well being defending champs. A lot of times you'll see teams just like completely tank it. They haven't done that. They've let their guard down a couple of times, but in a game like this, I've seen them enough times this year know when they put their A game together, they're still the best team in the NBA. Joker, when he wants to play, is unstoppable. I think you'll get their A game tonight, so I wouldn't mind laying the 5.5. I like the sites. Some sites offer it, some don't, but I would buy the hook if you have a site there that allows you to buy that half a point. I would grab them down to -5 rather than the 5.5. Not that I think it's going to really make a difference, but you never know.
I know the Warriors are home with the Clippers visiting, but I just look at these teams and believe that LA is the better team. Are you surprised that the Clippers are actually getting 3.5 at Golden State?
I am a little. I love the over in the game, and I love Steph Curry's props. But as far as the game itself, in a classic sense, this would be the perfect bounce-back spot for the Clippers, right? They got embarrassed at home the other night by OKC, losing by 20-plus points, right, 21 points. Most times you get a really good team that loses like that at home. Boy, they're chomping at the bit to get back out there. Now, this is the NBA. It's not like college or hockey or, baseball or football. You always got to wonder, and especially with the Clippers, these guys have been around a long time, and I don't think they take it personally when they lose games like that. But I would say that is your classic bounce-back spot for them. This is the one game out of all the games, Adam, that I like playing the over in. I don't see this one being a low-scoring game. I think this is going to be a 130, 125. Love the Steph Curry over 28.5-point props. I don't know how he doesn't get to 30, especially now with Klay Thompson struggling here a little bit. I think the Clippers are going to be good for 115-plus points. And like I said, I think Golden State is going to be as well. If I was going to play the game, I would either play the over or I would definitely take the Clippers. I've kind of
one of the first bets that
State, Adam.
One of the first bets that I placed when I woke up this morning, actually, Scott, was the overs on Steph Curry assists. I saw it sitting at 5.5. Okay. I was just a little bit surprised. I would have thought 6.5. How do you feel about the over there?
That's not bad, 5.5. You get that by accident, right, in the NBA. You just throw the ball to the guy, and he shoots a 3. Heck, you could dribble 2 times now in the NBA, Adam. I don't know how these guys all don't have 10 assists. I really don't. I mean, any kind of point guard, you give the guy the ball at the free throw line, and he drives in for a layup, he's getting an assist. So I think – I don't know why. I just get a sense that Steph's going to have a monster game tonight, whether it's some assists as well, whether it's rebounds. I think last chance to make a little statement before the All-Star game. Yeah, you watch Steph have maybe, I don't know about a triple-double, but he's going to have a monster game tonight.
Listen, man, let's get the points for you, the assists for me. Somehow a Clippers tight win works. Just works for me. We'll see. You'll be tracking it, obviously, along the well, maybe not. I guess it'll be starting a little bit later. But in-game live, prime time is coming up. Now there with you. Scott, great time chatting here with you, and enjoy the show.
You got it. Thanks, Adam.
Over $200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
You a hat guy?
Oh, I've got hats. I've got a jillion hats. I hear I don't have as many hats as you, but I
don't. You don't. I have a hat bag.
He has a hat bag.
I have a hat bag. I carry this
that's
around.
That's not a purse or man bag. It's a hat bag.
This is it. Look,
I love it.
I got to go everywhere.
And by the way, the whole Randy Moss receiver versus Randy Moss TV guy, the mistaken identity and all that. How can you confuse us, right? He's got hair. He's got hair, and I don't.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. This is Game Time Decisions. In for Joe Ranieri, Adam Kaufman, just the final couple of minutes. Thanks for staying with us, bearing with us, at least me anyway, through some technical difficulties and just hacking up a lung throughout. But we made it, folks, largely because of our terrific guests, going all the way back to the beginning of the show, the likes of George Kurtz and Brady Cannon, Mark Zinno, Colby Dant, Cam Stewart, most recently Scott Wetzel. Just, guest after guest after guest. Am I forgetting anybody? We talked to a bunch of great people, obviously, over these couple hours, and so grateful for them to share some of their time here with us on Valentine's Day, obviously. So question is, at this point in time, what do your slips look like? We gave you plenty of bets over the course of these couple hours. Many of the games are underway, as mentioned, as you know by now. Obviously, a lighter night on the NHL slate, but still there are money options to money to be made. Certainly options out there. George Kurtz outlined a bunch of them in terms of parlays. We got a whole bunch of Genesis picks for tomorrow morning to pay attention to from Cam, from Brady, and a lot of great basketball talk as well. So make sure that you're following our analyst lead. We always say it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. There is a reason for it. A lot of a lot of intelligence, a lot of guys that I like to tail for sure, and has made me a more profitable bettor. So make sure you do hop on. It's going to be a busy night still ahead. You're going to have Scott Wetzel, who was just on with us, coming on back for In-Game Live Prime Time with Dave Sharapan. They will be with you from 8 to 10 o'clock. And then Sports Rage, late night, takes over with Gabe Morency and company. Always a collection of guests and entertainment on that show. I'll be back with you this weekend as well with shows on Saturday and Sunday, and hopefully, go a little bit smoother. We'll get this camera thing figured out. But thanks again for hanging out. Best of luck with all of your bets tonight. Make some money, make it a profitable evening, and get those outrights out there. Just don't go too long. I mean, if there's one thing that Cam said and Brady said, do not, just go crazy with the 100-to-1 guys. Go a little bit lighter. Thanks to Patrick, to Luke, to Bobby, to Jack, everybody behind the scenes at SportsGrid. Greatly appreciate it. I'm Adam. We'll talk to you again next time. In-Game Live Prime Time coming up.